Your hamster is stressed right now, not because something dramatic happened, not because they're sick, not because there's anything obviously wrong, but because of something you did today, something completely normal, something you've probably done 100 times without ever thinking twice about it, and your hamster's nervous system registered as a threat. And here's the part that makes this so difficult. A stressed hamster doesn't always look stressed. They don't cry. They don't growl. They don't come to you and signal that something is wrong. They just quietly absorb it, day after day. And the cost of that silent stress on their health, on their lifespan, on the bond between you and them is enormous and almost entirely invisible until it's already done damage. I need you to hear this clearly. The 5 things I'm about to show you in this video are not rare mistakes. They are not things that only careless or negligent owners do. They are things that loving, attentive, genuinely good hamster owners do every single day, because nobody told them not to, because the information isn't out there the way it should be. Because when most people think about hamster stress, they think about obvious things like predators or loud noises, and they completely miss the quieter, more constant sources of stress that are built right into the average hamster's daily routine. And that's what this video is about. The everyday things, the habitual things, the things you've normalized because they've always been part of how you interact with your hamster, and that your hamster's body has been quietly reacting to this entire time. I want to start with something that will reframe everything else in this video, because before we talk about what stresses hamsters, we need to understand what stress actually does to an animal this small. When a hamster perceives a threat, any threat, whether it's a predator or a sudden loud noise or an unexpected touch, their body triggers the same biological cascade that happens in any mammal under stress. Cortisol floods the system. Heart rate spikes. Digestion slows or stops entirely. The immune system partially suppresses itself because the body has decided that right now, surviving this moment is more important than fighting off bacteria. All the body's resources redirect toward one goal: get through this. In the wild, this response is brilliant. A hamster hears a hawk overhead. The stress response fires. They bolt to safety, and then, because the hawk is gone, the response shuts off and the body returns to normal. The whole cycle takes minutes. The cost is manageable. But in a home environment, when the stress triggers are not hawks, when they're things that happen repeatedly every day at unpredictable times, the response doesn't get a chance to fully shut off before it fires again. And chronic, low-level, repeated stress in a hamster does something that acute stress doesn't. It wears down their system from the inside. Their immune response stays partially suppressed for extended periods. Their digestion is chronically disrupted. Their sleep, which is already a complex and critical part of hamster biology, becomes irregular and less restorative. Their lifespan shortens. Their quality of life drops. And often, the owner never connects the dots because none of it looks dramatic. The hamster just seems a little off, a little withdrawn, a little less interested in exploring, less active, less engaged. And the owner thinks, maybe they're just getting older, maybe that's just their personality. Maybe hamsters are just like that, but they're not. A hamster in a genuinely low-stress environment, with a truly trusted owner and a correctly structured daily routine, is a completely different animal. Alert, curious, active during their natural waking hours, willing to engage, showing all those trust behaviors, the relaxed grooming, the slow stretch, the calm, direct gaze that we talked about in our last video. That is what a hamster looks like when the chronic stress is removed. And removing it starts with knowing exactly what's causing it. So let's go through all 5. And I want you to be honest with yourself as we go through this list, not to feel guilty, because guilt doesn't help your hamster, but because awareness is the first step to change. And every single one of these things is fixable. Every single one of them can be adjusted starting today. If you have a hamster, or if you're thinking about getting one, subscribe right now. This channel exists for one reason: to give hamster owners the real science-based understanding of their pet that nobody else is giving them. Hit the like button, because it helps this reach other hamster owners who need to hear it. And leave a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country, your city. Let's see how far our hamster community reaches. I read every single one. Now, the 5 things. Let's start with number one, because it's the one that surprises people the most. It's something almost every hamster owner does. It feels like the right thing to do. And for your hamster, it is one of the most consistent sources of daily stress in their entire life. Number one, waking your hamster up to interact with them. This one is hard for people to hear because the impulse behind it is pure love. You want to spend time with your hamster. You want to hold them, interact with them, show them to someone, make sure they're okay. So you go to the cage during the day when they're sleeping and you gently nudge them awake, or you open the cage and let the light and sound disturb them into consciousness, or you simply pick them up while they're still drowsy and carry them out. And here's what's happening inside your hamster's body when you do that. Hamsters are crepuscular animals, meaning their biology is calibrated to be most active at dawn and dusk, and to sleep deeply during the day. This isn't a preference. This isn't a habit they've developed. It is wired into their physiology at the hormonal level. Their cortisol and melatonin cycles, their body temperature regulation, their digestive timing. All of it is synchronized to a biological clock that expects deep, uninterrupted rest during daylight hours. When you wake a hamster during that deep rest phase, their body does not gently shift from sleep to wakefulness the way a human might after a long nap. It fires the stress response. Their system interprets the sudden disturbance, the light, the sound, the unexpected physical contact as a potential threat. Cortisol spikes. Heart rate jumps. And then they have to spend the next period of time managing that physiological response instead of getting the restorative sleep their body needs. Do this occasionally, and the cost is minimal. Do this every day, which many owners do, because daytime is when they're home and awake, and you are chronically disrupting your hamster's most important biological rhythm. The fix is simple but requires a shift in mindset. Your hamster schedule is not your schedule. Interact with them in the evening, when they are naturally waking up and their body is ready to be alert and engaged. Let them sleep during the day without disturbance. That single change alone will produce a visible difference in your hamster's energy, curiosity, and willingness to engage with you. Number two, handling them before they've scent bonded with you. Touch is not a universal comfort. For a prey animal, being picked up, being lifted off the ground, losing contact with surface, being held in a grip they didn't choose, triggers an immediate threat response. In the wild, the only thing that lifts a hamster off the ground is a predator. That is the evolutionary context your hamster's brain is working from every time a hand reaches into their cage. This doesn't mean you can never hold your hamster. It means the order of operations matters enormously. Before handling should come scent familiarity. Your hamster needs to have processed your scent in a safe, low-pressure context enough times that their brain has genuinely reclassified you as non-threatening. Before handling should come voluntary approach. Your hamster choosing, on their own terms, to come to your hand for food, to investigate your fingers, to make repeated positive associations with your physical presence. Before handling should come trust, built slowly and correctly, not assumed based on how long you've owned the animal. Many owners skip directly to handling, especially with new hamsters, because they're excited, because the hamster looks cute and holdable, because they read somewhere that you should handle them daily to tame them. And for some hamsters, particularly those with calm temperaments and previous positive human exposure, this goes okay. But for many hamsters, premature handling creates a stress association with human contact that takes months to undo, if it gets undone at all. Number three, the cage is too small and too empty. This one is structural rather than behavioral, but it belongs on this list because it is one of the most pervasive and damaging sources of chronic stress in pet hamsters worldwide. And most owners don't know it because the cages sold in pet stores are marketed as appropriate when they are, in most cases, dramatically undersized. In the wild, a single hamster can travel up to 5 miles in a single night. 5 miles. Their nervous system is built for that level of physical movement and environmental stimulation. When you put an animal with that biology into a small cage with a single wheel and a water bottle and a hide, even a cage that looks fine, even a cage that a pet store employee told you was perfectly appropriate, you are placing them in an environment that cannot meet their most fundamental physical and psychological needs. The result is what behavioral scientists call stereotypic behavior, repetitive, purposeless movements that have no goal other than to discharge the energy and tension that is nowhere else to go. Bar chewing. repeated digging in the same corner, running patterns that don't vary. These are not personality quirks. These are signs of chronic environmental stress, and they happen in cages that look perfectly fine to human eyes. The minimum recommended enclosure size for a Syrian hamster, based on current behavioral research, is 80 centimeters by 50 centimeters of floor space, significantly larger than most commercially sold hamster cages. Dwarf hamsters need proportionally less, but still far more than the typical small starter cages suggest. And enrichment, foraging opportunities, burrowing depth, variety in environment matters as much as size. Number 4. Strong sense near the enclosure. Your hamster experiences the world primarily through their nose. This is not a figure of speech. The olfactory system in a hamster is so dominant, so central to how they process reality, that it is genuinely difficult for humans, who are primarily visual creatures, to fully appreciate how overwhelming scent-based input is for them. A hamster can detect scent compounds at concentrations that are orders of magnitude below what a human nose can register. They navigate by scent. They identify safety and danger by scent. They recognize you, their food, their environment, other animals, and changes in all those things by scent. Their world is built from smell, and the way your world is built from sight, which means that when you spray perfume, light a scented candle, use an air freshener, apply hand lotion, or cook with strong spices near their enclosure, you are not creating a mildly pleasant or mildly unpleasant sensation for your hamster. You are flooding the most important sensory channel they have with an overwhelming, uncontrollable, chemically complex input that they cannot escape and that their brain has no context for classifying as safe. Many synthetic fragrances also contain compounds that are genuinely toxic to small mammals at close range. Essential oil diffusers, which are currently very popular and are often placed in living rooms and bedrooms where hamster cages also tend to be, are particularly problematic. Eucalyptus, tea tree, peppermint, citrus oils. These are not harmless aromatherapy for an animal with a hamster's respiratory system and scent sensitivity. They are significant physiological stressors. The solution is straightforward. Keep the area around your hamster's enclosure as scent neutral as possible. Clean the cage with unscented products. Wash your hands with unscented soap before interacting with them. Keep diffusers, candles, and air fresheners out of the room where the cage is kept. These are small changes that make an enormous difference in your hamster's daily sensory experience. Number 5. Inconsistent routine. This is the one that surprises people most because it doesn't feel like it should matter. But for a prey animal, predictability is safety. Unpredictability is threat. Those two things are not negotiable at the level of the nervous system. They are hardwired. In the wild, a hamster's survival depends on knowing what to expect from their environment. They know when dawn comes. They know when dusk comes. They know the sounds and smells of their territory. Deviation from expectation, something unexpected, something out of pattern, registers as potential danger and triggers the stress response. In a home environment, your hamster learns your patterns. They learn when you typically come home, when the lights usually change, when feeding typically happens, when the apartment gets quiet at night, and they build their own rhythms around those patterns. Their biological clock calibrates the consistency of your household routine in ways that significantly reduce their baseline anxiety level, because a predictable environment is a safe environment. When that routine is inconsistent, when feeding times vary wildly, when the lights go on and off at unpredictable hours, when some nights are quiet and others are suddenly loud and full of activity at 2 a.m., your hamster's nervous system cannot settle. It stays partially activated, partially scanning, never fully at rest. The chronic low-level stress that results is not dramatic, but it is constant. Now here is what I want you to take from this, because I know that reading a list of 5 things you might be doing wrong could feel discouraging, especially if you love your hamster and you've been trying your best. And you have been. Every single person watching this video who has a hamster and cares enough to seek out this kind of information is already doing more for their pet than the majority of hamster owners worldwide. But caring about an animal and having the right information about an animal are 2 different things. And the gap between those 2 things is not your fault. It's the fault of an industry that sells hamster care as simpler and less nuanced than it actually is, that sells undersized cages as appropriate, that normalizes daytime handling, that treats hamsters as low-maintenance starter pets when they are, in reality, animals with complex needs and rich emotional lives that require real understanding to serve well. You now have that understanding, and the changes it points toward are not difficult. They don't require expensive equipment or major lifestyle overhaul. They require awareness, which you now have, and small, consistent adjustments that your hamster will begin responding to almost immediately. Because hamsters are resilient. Their nervous systems, when given the right conditions, recover. The trust signals come back. The natural curiosity returns. The activity levels increase. The bond between you and your hamster reaches a completely different depth than what most owners ever get to experience. And that starts now. Let me bring all 5 of these together, because I want to give you something concrete to walk away with, not just awareness, but a clear picture of what a genuinely low-stress hamster life actually looks like in practice. A low-stress hamster life means your hamster sleeps undisturbed through the day and wakes naturally in the evening, when you're there to meet them at the moment their body is ready to be awake and engaged. It means the first thing they experience when they come out is a familiar, safe scent of an environment that hasn't been disrupted with synthetic fragrances or chemical cleaners. It means their enclosure is large enough that their need to move and explore and burrow and forage is genuinely met, not approximated, not nearly met, but actually met, so that the restless energy that leads to stereotypic behaviors never builds up in the first place. It means that when your hand appears, it appears at predictable times, with familiar scent, in a context that has been built up over time through slow, patient trust building, so that their brain classifies your presence as comfort rather than threat. And it means that the rhythms of your household, the timing of lights, of feeding, of quiet and activity, are consistent enough that your hamster's nervous system can genuinely relax in a pattern rather than staying perpetually on guard against the next unpredictable disruption. That is not an impossible standard. That is not an expensive or time-consuming standard. It is simply an informed one. And the difference it makes in your hamster's quality of life, in how long they live, in how they behave, in the depth of the relationship you're able to build with them, is dramatic. I want to address something directly, because I know some of you are watching this and feeling a wave of guilt about things you've been doing without knowing they were harmful. I want you to let that go, and I mean that genuinely, not as a platitude. Guilt is only useful if it converts into action. If it sits there as self-criticism without changing anything, it serves nobody, and it certainly doesn't serve your hamster. So let it move through you and become something useful, a decision, a small set of changes, a different approach starting from tonight. Pick one thing from this list. Just one, the one that resonated most, the one you most clearly recognize in your own routine, and change that one thing this week. Just that one. Let your hamster's response guide you, because you will see a difference if you pay attention. The behavior will shift. The trust signals will begin to emerge or become more frequent. The quality of the interaction will change in ways you can feel even if you can't fully articulate them. And that response from your hamster will motivate the next change and the one after that. This is how good hamster ownership is built, not through a dramatic overnight transformation, but through consistent, informed, small improvements that compound over time into a genuinely extraordinary relationship with a genuinely extraordinary little animal. I also want to make sure you know what's coming next on this channel, because the next video goes into something that connects directly to everything we talked about today. We're going to look at what your hamster is actually experiencing at night, specifically during those hours when they're most active and you're asleep, and what the wheel behavior, the cage exploration patterns, and the specific sounds your hamster makes in those quiet hours are actually communicating about their emotional state. Because if you've ever wondered whether your hamster is truly content or just surviving, that video is going to answer that question more clearly than anything else I could show you. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it when it goes up. The button is right there, and it takes 2 seconds. Hit the like button on this video if it gave you something useful. It genuinely helps this content find the other hamster owners who need it. And leave a comment. Which of these 5 things surprised you the most? Which one did you not know about? I want to hear from you. I read every comment, and I respond to as many as I can. And if you know someone who has a hamster, a friend, a family member, someone in a hamster group or forum, share this video with them. Because the information in this video is the kind of thing that should come standard with every hamster purchase. And it doesn't. The pet industry isn't going to hand this to people, so we share it with each other. Your hamster is lucky to have someone who cares enough to be here. And I'll see you in the next one.